good.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the North Branford Planning and Zoning regular meeting for June 6, 2024. Please join me in saluting the flag and honoring to all those who gave their lives today in defense of freedom 80 years ago today. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this point, I'd like to introduce the members of the commission seated here today. To my immediate left is Bill Gandenzi, our vice chair. To his left is Ron Sienna, a regular member. To his left is Barry Ponder, regular member. And furthering out the left-hand side is Paul Morano, an alternate member to the commission tonight. To my far right is Janet Crane, our recording secretary. And at the administrative table is David Perkins, our town planner. My name is Robert Nowak. I am the chairman for the commission here tonight. Next order of business we have is to consider the approval for the minutes of May 2nd, 2024. Ask the commission members take a minute to review the minutes. Let me know if you have any corrections, adjustments, or alterations to the minutes, and then when you're ready, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes when you are ready. Voting on the minutes is Barry, Ron, and myself.
We accept the minutes for May 2nd, 2024.
We have a motion, you have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Abstained?
I abstain.
So I have 2 abstentions and 3 approvals, no opposition. The motion carries for the minutes for May 2nd. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing of possible action for application 2024-9, 1446 Middleton Avenue, R40 zone. And it's my understanding the applicant has withdrawn his application. Is that correct, Dave?
The application has been withdrawn. Yes, sir.
Okay. So with that being said, there's no further discussion on item 4, and this item is closed. So with that being said, we're moving on to the next item on the agenda, is old business. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
I appreciate your participation. So item 5 is old business. There is no bold business. Moving on to new business. A request for, item 6, request for a new street number for residential lot split from 520 Foxen Road, new lot to be known as 524 Foxen Road, map 23, lot 14.1. So apparently this lot was split in 2018, and with that being said, there's no street number.
Correct. It's
Right.
been known as 0 Foxen Road rear or something similar.
Okay.
So this is sort of an administrative detail that's been given to you guys as the commission, so you can choose to make it that number, or you can choose to make it something different. It's a logical number.
The original lot number was 520, and it was right next door, so we made it 524.
And the next one to the north is 528, and the next one to the south is 516.
Okay, so it fits right in, Dave. Good choice. Any questions, comments from the commission on the number?
I think the only thing we ask, I know it probably happens automatically, is the fire and police are notified, right, of it?
Correct.
Yeah, so they have been there in the loop, yeah. Yep. That sounds very good to me, very reasonable, makes sense.
So it's, what interesting, Dave, is that, you know, it occurred in 2018 and they had a variance. They went for a variance because it's in a R40 zone. And a lot of the lots along there are like R20 or, what's the other one? R10 in that vicinity, but we don't have anything such size zone. Has there ever been?
We have R40 or R80.
That's right. But this is, this in the neighborhood across the street, like, Ron, you were saying the small little starter homes, they're like in the R20 type size lots, because they're all on sewer. So I would ask this question of you, Dave, is there any other variances that occurred in the general vicinity south of Route 80 that have the sewer, obviously?
I think those are probably pre-existing non-conforming lots.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, okay. Is there any consideration that in our dialogue to change some of those some of that neighborhoods to what the appropriate size for that neighborhood?
You mean to make a
R20.
R20 zone?
Mm-hmm.
It's the first time I've heard about it.
I know. I was scratching my head on this one because it's a 1 acre lot. We made it into 2 because of a variance. And that's why I asked the question. Sometimes we want to mitigate other variances and make it a zone unto itself, or trying to solve the problem so it doesn't go to ZBA, as it were.
Correct. I mean, this is something that happened a long time ago, and we're just sort of correcting the street number and not really
Correct.
thinking about the underlying zone at this point, or at least I'm not.
Roger that. Okay. With that being said, any other question, comments on this?
No.
No. Make a motion on this, Dave? to-
Yeah.
Okay, so. My bad. Pass it up to whomever wants to read it. I got it.
You wanna do it? You wanna do
Yeah,
it?
that's fine, I get,
Because I'm gonna get my
got
glasses.
fresh eyes.
You get the big bucks, that's why,
Can't see it.
Make a motion to approve the new street address, assignment at 524 Foxen Road for property shown on the Thetford map 23, lot 14.1.
We have a motion, we have a second.
second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Yes. Sienna, right, second.
Next item on the agenda is other business, zoning regulation discussion, reorganize and updated Schedule A and B, form-based zoning model lighting code. So commissioners, you have a package of about 4 different items. One of our assignments was to discuss the Schedule A and B. Dave reorganized it into different things.
Why don't you want to step back a bit and talk about our conversation with the Economic Development Commission as a preamble into our discussion tonight, or do you want to wait and do that later?
We'll do that later.
Okay.
There wasn't much from EDC, so in any event, we met with EDC on Monday, 6 o'clock. We met for about an hour or so. Dave, myself, and Paul attended the meeting with the whole commission. We discussed many different things relative to planning zoning objectives. And a lot of what was discussed is kind of what is in front of you today. Working through revitalizing the schedules A and B, making sense of the different zones, why there's 3 I zones, why there's 3 B zones, can we combine them? Looking at different lighting aspects, in addition with addressing our rezone of the Route 80 corridor. In our discussions as a commission, we thought that a good idea would be to look at all the properties along Route 80 as that's our main commercial area in town. We like to keep it that way. And so one of the items we walked away with was, as a commission, was to look at from the town hall back to East Haven and see what we could do with making non-conforming lots conforming, and also looking at it from a B1, B2, B3 zone application along the corridor. The majority of it is, there's a couple parcels that we need to look at that would, I think, keep the businesses along Route 80, but that was kind of one of our main tasks that I took away from it. Dave, you want to add anything?
No, and I totally agree, and I've got to sit down and do an analysis of the properties from Town Hall to East Haven and see what's residential in a business zone, what's business in a residential zone, and just sort of highlight those characteristics of those different lots for you guys to look at on a map and see what we can do to, change it, whether things are wrong or awry or let's make it better.
Okay. I think what we should do, Dave, is an upcoming meeting, have the zoning map on the screen so we all can look at it together and see what we're looking at, because it's very hard to look at an 8.5 by 11 and see who's around
Right.
it. It would be so small, it'd be kind of hard. So then we can take a holistic view of B1, B2 and residential and see what happens if we change it to B1 or B2 or combine B1s and B2s.
Right. We need an analysis of what the uses are
Correct.
in the underlying zones.
In general, this is called out in our POCD too. I mean, in general,
Correct.
just to look at this, yeah. It was in our prior one too, so yeah, it's good that we're doing it.
There you go. So we're actually working on the POCD.
Yeah.
Surprise, surprise. So
So
Dave,
is
go ahead.
this, are we talking at one point, we were talking overlay. Are we talking that? Your predecessor, and when we had these meetings with EDC, that was
I
one of the
think-
things we threw out there. It never went anywhere in that thing. I think COVID hit. We never had a meeting after that.
Right. I think we need to do the analysis of
Yeah, I
what
agree.
uses,
Mhm.
and then we can figure
Yeah,
out
right.
what sort of tool we need to fix it.
Perfect. That's a smarter way of doing it.
So Dave, you recategorized a lot of the items, right? And did you make a suggestion on what you would like to suggest that we look at, change?
Well, I think we have this packet here
Hmm?
to
Okay.
start with, maybe a good place to start with page 1.
Hmm.
There's some simple changes that we should start thinking about changing. There's a typo, obviously, in C12 that it should say painting, not printing. If you look through the table of uses in my sort of blue outlines, there are a number of accessory uses that are specified in the table, which in my mind, if you're specifying an accessory use, then it's not an accessory use, because an accessory use should not be defined, because it's a use that's just accessory to the primary use. And as long as it makes sense that the accessory use works with the primary use, then it's fine for that to happen. Why should we be so specific? So, it talks about accessory uses to primary uses that could be somewhat bizarre. So a convenience store would be accessory to a gas station. That makes sense, right? But an accessory store, I mean, a convenience store accessory to a manufacturing facility would not make sense. So the commission and the zoning enforcement officer needs to determine on an individual basis what those accessory uses are that make sense, rather than having them coded into the table of uses. If they're coded in, they sort of eliminate any flexibility. So I just don't see a need for that in the table.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I like some of the, is there language in the definition that, because you said a few very specific things that I think would give us great guidance
It's-
when we were doing these things. You said a few
It's in
things
the-
that are important, I think.
It's
I
in
can't
the
remember
de-
what they were, but,
It's in the definition of
Yeah.
accessory uses in the zoning code itself.
yeah.
That
It
they have to
includes
have,
some-
they have to have a nexus to the primary
Yeah, I
use.
mean, it made sense what you said, so as long as that's in there, yeah.
You want us to look at the blue ones, Dave?
Yeah, the blue ones would be good.
Okay, let's look at those.
They're hard to read.
Blue ones, colorblind.
Yeah, B7 is the first one, golf, tennis, swimming, or similar club, whether operated as a business or for profit or not, including customary,
Sorry.
B7, under recreational amusements.
Oh, yeah,
uses.
yeah.
Yeah, right there. Sorry.
So why would we care whether it's a business or, as a business or for profit or not? I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, I was confused myself, David. We have clubs, right? And then we have golf course, and then we have golf driving range and mini golf. All like carve-outs. I'm confused on why
Me too.
commercial golf. Wouldn't the driving range be ancillary to golf course?
I would think so.
So specifically saying a commercial golf driving range or mini golf, unless the commission members have some background to that?
You're saying the commercial, is that what you're calling it?
Yeah.
Well, if you go down to B
B7,
7.2, commercial golf driving range or miniature golf are only allowed in the I2 and the I3 zone. But golf and tennis is allowed by special permit and all sorts of other zones.
Got it, yeah.
So who did that and when to eliminate it?
Well, is there tennis, swimming, and in other parts of the regs? Because it says clubs, golf club, tennis club, swimming club. They can have accessory services and eating facilities. But then it says not including a commercial golf driving range or mini golf, specifically in both of these, 7.1 as well. On the golf course, you can't have a commercial golf driving range or mini golf, which is all allowed in R80, 40, B1 through B3. Then the isolated, if you want to do that, you have to go to industrial zone to have a commercial golf driving range and mini golf. Sounds kind of odd to me.
Hmm.
If you have a driving range at a golf course, couldn't it also be commercial?
Yeah. And wouldn't a golf driving range be accessory to a golf course frequently?
That's what I would think as well.
Doesn't, I mean, it doesn't have to be. We have one. We still have the one here? It's not a
Yeah,
golf course.
Fairways in Brantford. And then
It's not like on the border of North Branford though,
it's
right?
on the border.
Yeah,
of
by
Brantford.
Van Williams there.
You could have a golf driving range.
It's a
that
driving range, yeah.
Might be a reasonable use of
Mm-hmm.
open space in North Branford.
Yeah.
I would think so. I think it's a derivative of what happened, there was a golf driving range across the street before these
Oh, yeah,
houses
yeah.
became,
Right.
Yeah.
well, yeah.
That's right, Cinnamon Bridge. and that.
Across some duties,
Yeah.
used to be a golf driving range before it
Yeah.
became houses. That
Well,
whole property.
maybe somebody wanted to eliminate that somewhere along the line.
Yeah, that sounds like,
Yeah, it would make sense.
this is not a good reason to change. the regulations.
Agreed. So can we combine all these three into one, Dave, and then figure out where they belong?
Yeah. And would the general purpose be allowing the clubs with an accessory use of a driving range?
Yeah, with the driving range.
Makes sense.
What better than to have a driving range in a country flair,
That's right.
right?
Go ahead.
I think it fits in our recreational composition in North Branford. Okay. And we'll take out those words, Dave, whether operate as a business or for profit or not, right? The blue we're gonna take out and reword it?
Yeah, we'll try to combine those, that
Okay.
whole B7, 7.1, 7.2 to one item.
So, C 7.1, indoor theaters in assembly halls when accessory and subordinate to other use allowed on the same lot in the district.
So that sort of seems to me that if you have a car shop, now you can have because car repair stations are allowed in the zone. Now you can have an indoor theater accessory to it. Because it says,
Oh, yeah,
any other use allowed in the zone.
yeah, yeah.
So it just confuses it because the primary definition says that there has to be a nexus
Yeah.
between the
Mhm.
primary use and the accessory
So a
use.
car shop. can't
So
have a
why
theater.
even say that?
Yeah.
And-
I agree. Certainly the way it's worded.
And the same is true of the 8.1, the amusement centers and game room when clearly subordinate to another use allowed on the same lot in the district. So again, you could have a gas station and an amusement park.
And the only difference that's 8.1, right? Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so then the only difference in usage is that 8.1 is allowed in industrial zone 1 and industrial zone 3, as opposed to the primary, which is C.8, is only allowed in I2.
Right.
Is there another word for assembly halls? We modernize that? I don't know.
Sure.
Is that like supposed to be all encompassing, but it's only in B1 and B2? Indoor theaters and assembly halls? Isn't there assembly halls in churches?
Assembly is not so
whatever.
bad
What's
because the
assembly?
fire
Is that
code
a-
has
Is that-
has reference to assembly areas.
Yeah, I think
Areas.
assembly's okay.
Assembly is probably a good word because it has a lot of meaning in the fire code.
If you could also call it a public house, like they did in the Revolutionary time.
Oh, yeah. Or with the CK, like Irish public house.
Yep.
Okay.
They have a plant.
Okay, so Dave, we're good for making those changes. C1, retail uses, stores and other buildings and structures where goods are sold or services are rendered primarily at retail, except as may be limited by the listing of similar uses in Part C of this schedule. Then it breaks it down again in the next C 1.1, where it limits the business. No individual enterprise occupies a floor area greater than 7,500 square feet. There's a
And there-
whole other use of that one, which only changes it from, takes it, 1.1 is in B3, B1, 2, and 3. Then C 1.2, stores and other buildings and structures where goods are sold or services is rendered at retail when accessory and subordinate to another permitted use on the same lot.
So that's the same accessory
Exactly.
thing.
That's crazy.
So you want to get rid of that.
Yep.
And the other one with the 7,500 feet, allows it in the B3 zone.
Which I think there's only two in the,
The B3 zone only is 2 lots in the whole town.
right. Starbucks and up by Mansfield.
And Aces.
Aces, my bad. Yeah. That's up the hill on,
Oh, Country
Old
Bank
Post.
Harbor, you
Yeah.
mean? Aces?
no, it's the old school that they convert, that the state bought, up the hill from the
Oh,
library.
yeah, that is, I'm thinking Aces. Oh, yeah.
So that's the B3 zone is that lot, one on Mansfield Drive next to the condominiums or the apartments, and next to the Central Plaza. So the B3 zone should also be eliminated.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah, so, okay.
Okay, so that's gone. C-10, motor vehicle service stations, motor vehicle repair garages including automobile, truck, trailer, and farm equipment repairing, painting, and upholstering. Establishments for motor vehicle washing, and establishments for sale of new and used auto trucks, buses, trailer, or farm equipment. Then accessory to that is B.1, motor vehicle services stations having no repair services or having only a limited repairs license issued by the state of Connecticut, Department of Transportation. C 8-10.2, which might be another typo, Dave.
What's that?
C 8-10.2.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Motor vehicle repair garages including auto, truck, trailer, and farm equipment repairing when accessory or subordinate to another use allowed on the same lot, or when not engaged in retail sale of solene and other petroleum. I guess that's supposed to be gasoline? Forgot the GA?
Yeah.
Gasoline and other petroleum products, and with no outside display of vehicles or equipment for sale.
And then the next one is accessory to an automobile parts store.
Yeah.
So these were all shoehorned in
Yeah.
along the line, and they allowed it more in Northford Center than it hadn't been allowed before, or in Brantford Center.
Interesting.
So again, these should just be cleaned up and made into something logical.
Mm-hmm.
Just a question. Where would a electric car charging station, what would that be classified as?
It wouldn't be,
Yeah, it's not.
wouldn't be permitted.
Yes. No, I can say that out loud.
Okay?
You mean,
Well, vehicle-
well, just, I mean, just, what you mean is just like
Oh,
a Tesla lot, just with all chargers or something. You could, we're gonna have them as part of, commercial buildings. When they come, they have to have a certain number of them out front.
Right, but somebody could have a,
But what you mean is like, not, instead of self-storage, you have just chargers. Is that what you were
Right.
thinking? Yeah, no, that's not permitted, right?
Correct.
That's what you were saying.
but that's something we should address.
Yeah.
I mean, you have service stations, and you have gas stations,
Yeah.
and you have gas stations with stores, basically, right?
and then auto parts.
Well, auto parts is just retail. You got a limited garage, You have a gas station with a garage, you have a gas station with a store, and then you have a full repair place with nothing. So there's sort of 4 levels that
Yeah.
we're missing here since we wrote this in 1979.
Where does upholstering fall under?
Oh, what?
Upholstering. Isn't that an ancillary to everything, I guess?
Yeah, I would think that would be,
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. Thanks, Dave. Take care
So-
of that one. Yes.
So is that a future thing for charging?
yeah.
Future, not part of this, yeah.
Well, I think we can talk about it. I'll propose something. I mean, it might not be something that you want.
Well, I think it's the time, so I think it should be addressed in all the modes of uses.
Well,
Typically,
there's gonna become a time when you're gonna have,
The
Mandated.
state may mandate it at some point. This is maybe down the road, I would say.
yeah.
Forward thinking, right, Bill?
Yeah.
I don't think.
I don't think there's a huge demand right now, so I don't think anyone's banging on our door.
Right.
Yeah, but I've seen them in the middle of parking lots and up against buildings, so it's like, you know, it's coming, but.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Maybe not necessarily at our gas stations per se, because they're not very accommodating.
No.
Right now, they're not large enough. I would think Central Plaza would be an ideal spot for charging of vehicles. Central
It'd have
Plaza.
to be
'cause our-
something on a main area. They're not gonna go far off the main beaten path to find a charger.
Big Y.
Yeah, something
Right,
like that.
it's on the
yeah.
route, on Route 80,
Central
pull
Plaza.
in, park, go get your food and come back out, and you're good to go.
Well, I mean, there are requirements now for new
Right.
buildings with parking lots that need to have.
Right. So maybe not necessarily, well, under automotive uses, would it fall under, if Big Y had wanted to put a, Tesla came in and said they want to put a bunch of charging stations over there, where would that fall under our uses table? Because not necessarily in our town at the gas station, because we're not really big enough, but there might be, or even at sports parks.
Right.
So I think we should
Should that
accommodate.
be
it
considered
somewhat.
in that specific situation, an ancillary use? Kind of, because Big Y says, we're gonna do it for our customers. They don't really care who uses it, but it's for their customers.
There you go, okay.
But putting it on a table would mean like someone comes in and instead of putting self-storage, they put just,
Well, I think
you know,
that's what Ron's
yeah,
talking about.
40 chargers that people can pull in, yeah, exactly.
Okay, we can discuss that.
Okay. Moving on, C13 warehouse and wholesale business and commercial storage to the extent permitted in a district as set forth herein. Shall not be located less than 500 feet from a residential district. 13.1 is warehouses and warehouse business and commercial storage. The extent permitted in the district as set forth herein shall not occupy more than 2,500 square feet of floor area. Then there's self-storage facilities with outside storage.
So I think that language is just superfluous.
Because you had 500 distance from residence and then not more than 2,500 square feet, right?
Well, just get rid of the blue words.
Okay. Gotcha.
Because it allows small warehousing in the B1 zone, which is probably okay. I just don't like those, as to the extent permitted in the district that's set forth here, and what the hell does that mean?
Good point.
I mean, either it's set forth or it's not.
Okay. Under understood. So same language in C14,
Yep.
C14.1, to the extent the same is permitted in this district as set forth herein. And again, subordinate accessory to another permitted on the same lot. Language is in C14 and 14.1. Then we want to make the typo change, Dave, in 14.1
Yeah, so that should be 500.
instead of 55. Okay. (16.1), manufacturing, processing, or assembly of goods. Again, same language and accessory and subordinate to another permitted in use on the same lot. So we'll get rid of that language. And when located within a closed building.
So go back to that C 14.1 as an accessory use.
Yep.
That whole thing should be just stricken.
Yes, sir.
And the same with the 16.1. You know, if it's accessory, it's accessory. Why specify?
Right. Sounds good. I think that's the last one, Dave. Good. Commissioners have any questions, comments regarding any of the ones we went over?
Because then go to the last page
Yes, sir.
where it has D3.
That's it,
Accessory uses customary with and incidental to any aforesaid permitted uses subject to the securing of a special use permit. So that's your,
Go there.
yeah.
You go to. This nonsense says there, go to accessory use and hit me there. Okay.
Good.
Dave, did we want to back up to A6?
Yep.
A6, 6.1, 6.2, 6.3, we got farm winery, farm brewery, stands and displays and agricultural uses. So what is a truck gardens? Anybody know?
Where is this?
Six,
Oh, here. Yeah, yeah.
A6.
Well, a truck garden is somebody who's just, you know, they're growing tomatoes and peppers and all those sort of things, and they're bringing them out to a stand and selling them.
Okay. Because at one point in time, up in the center of Norfolk, there was someone had a truck garden, pulled up his cart with all his fruit and was selling it, or vegetables selling on a lot just opposite the daycare. Right in that empty vacant lot,
Right.
parked it right there. That was years ago, so maybe what that's for? Now it makes sense.
Grown on produce, grown on the premises. So he wasn't growing them on the premises.
No. But I mean, so is that something from a enforcement officer's job, is to see, make sure they're growing on the premises? I mean, I'm just saying, I mean.
Show me your
Well,
tomato plant.
I came from a community where the table of uses said you were allowed to have farm stands. That was it, farm stand. And I had somebody who had a 10,000 square foot display outside their house, and they said it was a farm stand.
10,000.
Yeah, and I said, no, that's not a farm stand. And they said, well, what's a farm stand? And, you know, I said, well, that's not. So we went back and we wrote the regulations to allow like 3 tiers of farm stands. So you have your wagon out in front of your house where you sell eggs and produce, and it's, you know, limited to 200 square feet, and you can do that as a right. Sell your chicken eggs, sell your, whatever you grow at your house. And then there's a second one where you need a site plan review that's maybe up to 2,500 square feet. And then there's the next one that's, needs a special permit because it's 5,000 square feet. And we'd like, and those would be in residential zones.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you're on your own farm, you're not talking that, right? Or are you?
Yeah, no, they're still on a farm, but they're selling them
Okay.
retail on a farm.
Yeah.
They're not really farming, it's,
All right, yeah, okay.
so we haven't had an issue with that, but it could be an issue.
All right.
But I think if somebody is hawking vegetables off the back of a truck on a vacant lot, that's not kosher.
Okay, gotcha. If there's any opportunity to clean up this 8,
Sure,
6, 1, 2, and 3?
yep.
Mark, there are very similar uses other than the brewery can't be in B1, 2, and 3, or industrial 1, 2, and 3. But the winery can be all but in all the zones. But the brewery is only limited to R40 and R80, but nowhere else. Seems kind of odd.
Well, that's because of the way it was presented to the commission when they approved those. They only approved those specific lots because that's where they wanted to put the business. And we only have 2 of those businesses, and the regulations were changed specifically for those businesses, so.
Right, and that brewery's on a farm.
It's on a farm, but it's in a residential zone,
Correct.
and the winery is in industrial zone.
Industrial zone.
And the same with the farm and outdoor events, when that was first proposed, it was limited to an I2 zone.
Right, two zone, yeah.
And I think that one's a little political.
Right. Okay.
But it may be, I mean, we don't have an active agricultural commission right now, but if we had one, I would refer all these things to them and say, you guys tell us what you want.
Fair enough. Okay.
Okay.
Understood. Okay, your number E, Dave, update B1 versus B2 and I1 versus I2 differences. Do we need 2 zones?
So, I always get it wrong, but the B2 zone, or the B1 zone, is Northford Center, Brantford Center, and out by Guilford. Those are sort of the node-type centers.
Okay.
Those the B1s or the B2s? The B1 is the Northford Center.
There you go.
B1, B2,
Oh, not a four.
B1 by the library,
B1.
in this section. Big Y to 22 is B1, basically. We're just looking at the Route 80 corridor.
Yeah. So this is.
Stratford only has two, B2, B3. There's only a B1, Dave, all the way down at, is that Evergreen Woods? The lower corner of Route 22. Or is that I3?
That's
Might
I,
be
yeah,
I,
that's an I zone.
Yeah, so there's one little section, it might be Bill Miller's, all the way down at the end of 22, but I'm not sure how far that goes. B1 is all up in Northford, and I3.
Yeah, so the B1 is in Northford and out by Guilford and in the Brantford Center. I think I'd rather put that conversation off for another time, whether we try to eliminate one of those zones. Certainly the B3 zone is worthless, and the I3 zone is worthless.
Okay.
So you basically have one industrial zone for the whole town. You have one, currently you have three, one for the quarry. We'd keep the quarry zone.
Yep.
Second one, we just have an industrial zone and eliminate the I3. And the difference between the I2 uses and the I3 uses is, you know, you can only have a hotel in the I3 zone. And you can't have a veterinary office in the I3 zone, but you can in the I2. It's about the major differences between the two zones.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask if we could have a definitions or uses.
Yeah, and there are only about 6 lots in the I3 zone. And most of them are on Foxen Road by East Haven and down on Notch Hill Road by Brantford.
What happens to approvals that were approved under a zone that was eliminated? Just irrelevant, it just goes to the new zone? Do you know? Just curious.
I'd have to think about it.
I would imagine you'd have to combine all the uses into one.
But,
You'd have to combine all the uses.
yeah,
Yeah, no, my question was if we, whatever, what's something that's improved here now, and if we eliminate this, this becomes I2. But the record showed that it was approved for I3, there is no I3 anymore. What does that mean?
so they would become a pre-existing
Pre-existing-
non-conforming
oh,
use.
okay, yeah. So we'll create,
Residential zones are different. But commercial zones, you'd become a,
not good, right.
Okay.
but most of those have been, most of the I3 zones have been used, like the Sportsplex is an I3 zone. In that area around it's an I3. And Evergreen Woods is an I3. And there's 2 lots sort of behind it that are accessed by Brantford that are owned by Yale New Haven Hospital that are I3 zones. And those are really the only 2 lots that are vacant.
Right. Good.
It's not.
So did we beat up that table enough?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good, that was long overdue, David, so thanks.
I had a bunch of other ones, but we'll forego that conversation on that table.
Well, let me try to tidy it up, and then we'll
Sounds great.
go from there.
Okay. Fair enough.
You want to talk about the bulk table? Or do you want to just go in, yeah,
Yeah. Or you want to do lighting?
no, let's do the bulk table.
Okay, book table.
So I was surprised. You have this?
Yep. You handed it out.
So I was surprised to realize that the R80 zone has a minimum street frontage for each lot of 25 feet. Where the R40 has 125 feet, and everything else has a lot more than 25. 25 feet would be a rear lot, as defined in our regulations. So this has been a typo
Yep.
in our regulations since 1979. And I believe it should be 125 feet, but maybe it should be 250 feet. But I think 125 feet would be reasonable. So I would suggest we change that to make it accurate.
That's the R80 number 4, right, Dave?
Correct.
Move to 125 feet from 25 feet. Okay.
Also thinking about the setbacks, especially in the B1 zone,
Yep.
which is the Northford Center zone, right? You have a 40,000 square foot lot size, that's an acre. The P2 zone has 10,000 square foot, which is like a quarter acre. Don't you think the B1 should be much smaller than that? How are you ever gonna get an acre in that B1 zone? There's no lots that are that big to start with.
I agree.
And if you wanted to subdivide them or make them smaller and have more development, that would be a good thing.
What are you suggesting, 20,000? 5,000?
I was saying
10,000?
at least 20,000.
Okay.
And again, the setback in that zone is 50 feet,
Yep.
B1.
which is why we have all our storefronts at least 50 feet away from the road.
Yep.
And all the parking in front of them. That seems foolish.
Mm-hmm.
So that should go to at least 20 feet.
Okay.
And your sideline setbacks are 20 feet. They could be less than that. So, I mean, this is sort of low-hanging fruit on this table
Sure.
and would probably get us into the conversation of form-based zoning.
Agreed. Yep, do you wanna do, what's that, 7.3 from side and other property lines to 15 feet?
Yeah.
Because I knew you had made a suggestion, Dave, early on when we first had this conversation in Northford. I think the suggestion you had was 10 feet. Way back, our preliminary conversation was 10 feet. You want to shoot for 10, because you made a couple of different suggestions.
I would think 10 feet would be great.
That'd be across the board, B1 through B3, or just for B1?
Just for B1.
Okay.
Because I think your suggestion is that we want to move to just one zone. For the
I
most
would
part.
think we would want to move to one zone
One.
eventually, yeah.
Yes, okay.
And then we would have an overlay zone on
Yep.
Northford and North Branford.
Did you want to look at, while we're having this conversation with B1, you want to look at the frontage from 125 feet for B1 as well?
I'm not too concerned about the frontage.
Okay. You okay with that, the way it is? All right. Okay. How about the height, B1?
We'd probably be better off if we're at 40 feet than 35.
I agree. I think it should be 40, no higher than, not to exceed 45 feet. There should be some limits, plus and minus, I think. 3 stories, 40 feet, and then let them figure it out.
Not to exceed.
Not to exceed,
I think we already looked, I mean, that new ladder one, I assume can go,
yeah,
Right.
55 feet. Yeah. Yep. There's some other language I want to suggest, but I'm not prepared to do that just yet for associated heights. But it works in with our form-based zoning.
Is this an eventual public hearing?
Oh, yeah.
When we compile all these changes and we present them all at once?
Yeah.
Right, is that the concept, yeah?
You want to roll into that, or the lighting? Which one?
I think if you guys just review what I wrote for the lighting, and we'll talk about it next time, that would be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be good.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, the state of Connecticut's kind of saying, here, we want you to do this.
A lot of words to go through. so-
Some of it's, I don't think applicable to us, in my opinion. Some of it's, boat launches and dock lighting. Yeah?
Is it time, or is it maybe another time to talk about, we've been, some of us have been saying it for years, like a facade, to get something about facades? Or is that, the overlays cover some of those things? And then, because I thought of it when you were talking about the setback from the street, we have it 50, that's why the parking lots are in the front, is it? I don't know if we can build some of that into some of the language if we're changing things. Kind of flip the narrative so any new development is kind of the opposite of what we've been doing. And then, we've talked a lot about, someone comes in with a square rectangle, it's hard, if they meet the bulk standards, there's very little we can do, but if we can point to a facade thing to say, well, we want a little better than that, we're a rural community.
And that sort of rolls us into the whole form-based zoning concept, which is, rather than having front setbacks and side setbacks and rear setbacks, you look at a block and you say somebody lives in a block, and the block can be up to 200 feet wide, and it has a street setback occupancy area of 50 feet, 75 feet from the road, where you have retail activities, and you allow the building to be a certain distance away from the street frontage, as long as it has a sidewalk and a planting area, and maybe a bicycle trail, and maybe parking spaces, and then the building can go up. And it can go up to a height of 35, 40 feet, and the uses in the upper stories can be residential, but basically the ground level has to be commercial.
Yeah.
And you specify the opacity of the materials on that street frontage, so that there has to be a certain amount of glass area, and the signage area is constricted to X amount, and it needs hanging signs, so you end up with these developments that have been taking place in New Haven and Stamford, where people are coming up to the road and creating old-style storefronts like we grew up with in
Yeah.
our hometowns back when we were, back in the day,
A long time ago,
before they,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, it's sort of ironic that there weren't any zoning regulations and everybody built hard against the street. Then the zoning regulations came around and everybody said, oh, you gotta be 50 feet back so you
Yeah.
put all the cars in front.
Yeah.
So we end up with Northford Center where all the buildings are way back, all the cars are in the front. And if we could change that, and as we go through the Northford Center study, we could build buildings close to Forest Street and Middletown Avenue with sidewalks in front of it and parking behind it, and we're excited about it.
Okay.
What's our next step, Dave? I think form-based zoning was kind of a weird language to me until I dove into it, and it puts all the things that we've been talking about what our vision is, and it puts it all on paper, so the guy who comes and develops has to follow this to the T without any variation, not only now, but in the future.
Yep.
And that's kind of what our objective here is, to set the ground rules for the next guy to come along and say, this is our vision, stick to the plan, build it to this, if you're gonna make any improvements in any of the overlay zones that we have.
And it gives them flexibility as well. They can move things forward and back, and they're not locked. It actually gives them more flexibility than,
Right.
Okay.
It takes a lot of our language, scale and depth, into the concept and puts it on paper,
right,
versus our zoning is, we're subjective to whatever they come in front of us instead of us dictating to them.
Yeah.
right.
So what's our next step for the form-based zone?
Well, I think we tie it into the whole North Branford Center study.
Okay,
And as they want to develop, because a major part of that form-based zoning is streetways and alleyways and walkways and dividing these buildings up so you can have some access ways between them. And I think it's going to be important to try to figure out where the new curb cuts are going to be in Northford Center to determine where these buildings can lie. But I think we should do it in conjunction with that, which will be this summer.
Okay.
understood, but are we saying that they're going to, they being the consultant, develop the package, as it were? I'm assuming?
Well, I think we can develop the package. I mean, there are a number of them out there that, to me, look very clean.
Okay,
You know, Hamden's done the form-based zoning for 10, 12 years, and they actually have, there's another piece of the form-based zoning that's called transect zoning, so that within each, the transect divides the neighborhoods up into a urban zone, suburban zone, rural zone. There are 7 different areas of usage within within the town. I think we're just talking about one here in Northford. It's just, it is what it is. It's not a urban zone. It's a type 3 zone in the transect zoning.
okay.
So it's not suburban, it's suburban.
Would that apply to the North Branford overlay as well?
Yeah,
Okay.
but you think of it as doing buildings, but also having alleyways and streets and walkways and certain dimensions of driveways.
Okay.
So that I think we would want to have on the sub-streets, we'd want to have on-street parking as opposed to parking lots.
Okay. We can fit it, absolutely.
Cool.
So that'll be in conjunction with the Northford study?
Correct.
Okay. And you'll be spearheading that, Dave?
We're working on it.
Okay. Gotcha.
They've come up with a really good base analysis of the area, a nice report, and they will be working on the future, starting next week,
Okay.
and come up with some plans. And I think they're on target. I'll be interested to see what they come up with.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay. All right, so we talked about lighting, talked about form-based zoning. What else we got, Dave? I think that's about it?
I think I'm done, yeah.
Okay.
I got two other ones. So we should also reduce the parking requirements.
Hmm.
Right now, we have 1 parking space for 150 square feet of retail, which is what Northford Center would require. They're in compliance. Have you ever seen that parking lot more than half full? I've looked at it on maps for the last 10 years, and I've never seen it more than a quarter full. Maybe if there's a parade or something.
Yes, I was gonna
it's
say
full,
the
but-
parade.
Right.
So that should be raised to like 300 square feet.
What is it, 150?
Yeah,
So
we're like
half of that.
the tightest of anybody anywhere.
Okay, doesn't make sense then, yeah.
Also, the restaurant one is based on 1 space for each 50 square feet of patron space. Most of the ones I've seen, I'm familiar with, are based on seats in a restaurant rather than square feet.
Okay.
I think maybe this was like the 80s, and they had dance floors and disco balls and
Could be.
I also added a little addition to the lighting, to the sign schedule that would allow for electronic message boards, which we have one by the high school it's not permitted. So if anybody wants another one, and they'd be only allowed for municipal use.
Okay.
So you're saying we should take that one over?
I think you should take it down, because it's illegal.
The stuff we're working on, Dave, is that what you're saying?
But,
That stuff you're working on?
yeah, no, I put it on my,
Your to-do list, so it's.
I think it's actually the end of your little package here. And we're also having a public hearing for a re-subdivision. And in your little package that I gave you, there's a page that says subdivision.
This last package or the one we mailed out?
The one with the
Oh, there,
little.
yeah, yeah.
So that one,
So the regulation says that, and by sending a copy thereof by registered or certified mail to the application. So Lynn asked me today, who are we gonna send it to? I said, we'll send it to the application.
it's per the state statute, 8-26.
So I said, sending a copy thereof to all property owners within 100 feet of the property via certificate of mailing. I think for special permits, we do 500 feet.
500 feet, yeah.
Right, right.
You prefer 500 feet to 100 feet?
Let's see.
I mean, it's a re-subdivision, so really it's just the people who are in the subdivision who really need to be known about it. I think 100 feet is fine.
Okay.
And it doesn't say you have to put a sign up. You want to put a sign up? That's your option. state statutes allow you to say whether you want to put a sign up or not.
I think we'll put a sign up. Once the commission feels otherwise, what do you guys think? I never heard about it, I didn't see it, but if they put a sign there, they still won't see it, but what do you guys think?
Yeah.
Does it, doesn't hurt?
I remember us having a go around with this. The sign went up, it rained at night, the paper curled. So people were protesting that although the sign was up, they couldn't read the sign. But if, you know, and it kind of,
Put it on the electronic message in
Yeah.
front of the high school.
yeah, there it is.
I think we've had more, yeah, we've had comments that people weren't notified to Bob's, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but to Bob's point, at least say, they put a sign and we sent it to 100,
Yeah.
everyone with 100 feet for doing what our regulations require us to do.
How about a variable message sign? Those big ones
So I'm
on
saying-
construction?
I think a sign, keeping the sign.
You think a sign is good?
Oh, pole
Yeah,
sign.
I do.
Instead of
I've
signage.
heard more comments about, you know, not being.
I heard about it because of this sign.
I don't know that, but just saying, challenging us, saying we're not, you know, I didn't know about this, where we say, well, it was put in the newspaper, it was sent to the residents, and this, we have the certified mailings, and there was a sign, so we're doing 3 different things, so
Okay.
at some
so
level,
we'll-
you need to pay attention to what's going on. If
So
you're
we'll add the
interested.
sign.
Instead of, we're adding 2, shouldn't it, instead of being feet wise, shouldn't it be people wise? So, or dwelling wise? So let's say you have a parcel and you're gonna do something and they're 400 feet till the next person. So if you're only
Yeah.
saying 100 feet, that guy's 400 feet away, you're gonna know because he's 400 feet away. So shouldn't it be, let's say 4 people in an area around, you know what I'm saying?
Like adjacent property owners?
Right, instead of doing foot-wise, it should be parcel-wise, something like, if I sound correct.
Well, you could do abutters, so that's
Anybody who abuts should be, that should be,
a given.
yeah, right, that doesn't even be a question.
And then what would be the next
The
level?
next 3 people, I would say,
3 people in a house?
no, 3 parcels maybe? If you have somebody who's trying to do something, and you have neighbors that are very far away from each other, and you do 100 feet, so you, obviously it's the person who bought you, they're gonna know. Right, on some standard, you gotta tell them. And if you do 100 feet from that person, you're not gonna,
Well, that's gonna be, how would you do that?
you just take the center wherever you're going and just do, let's say, every person that's around it. In the general area. This way here, you wouldn't have anybody say, I didn't know, but everybody knew.
Well, I think a
How many times
distance,
do they drive by that they might not see that sign?
The only thing I'm thinking, I know what you're saying, the only risk there is if, say it's a subdivision or whatever it is that impacts access to the road and only these people around it, but all these people are impacted because it's gonna create something on the road.
Traffic to get to that one little area.
But the 100 feet doesn't solve that either, so I know what you're saying, but.
So if you're in theory, let's say you're in a development and there's a monster area behind it, you're gonna tell the people at the end of the development, hey, they're gonna develop more down the road, but the guy in the beginning who's gonna be impacted by.
you know
that.
what, Paul? They'll all
Does that
talk to
sound-
each other and,
Yeah, I
Show
know,
up.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
What
You
was,
make it
what was
5
the,
you
what
make-
was the distance? Was it 500?
I don't know, it doesn't say.
Oh, there was no distance. Okay, got it, yeah, yeah.
maybe we could do like 250 feet from the edge of the property, from any point of the property.
Right.
Maybe that, and that would get enough people, and then word of mouth.
Well,
If you're
don't
not
do-
talking to your neighbor, you know,
We either have a choice of 100 or 500.
Yeah.
oh, yeah, I don't know. But 500, I mean, about it.
500 is nothing.
Well,
You could do 250, it'll
Well,
just
yeah,
confuse
yeah,
them.
I would just do the 500, I mean,
I would say people, dwellings.
We don't have, it's not gonna cost the town that much money. We don't have that many subdivision requests. You know, you gotta
This is
send it
for-
certified.
This is for a subdivision, right?
Right.
And it's only required for a re-subdivision.
Oh, yeah, so yeah, 100 feet.
Subdivisions don't require a public hearing, but we usually have them anyway, just because I like that. But re-subdivisions require a public hearing, and that's because the people who live in the subdivision
Yeah, we have.
are really interested in what's happening to the change of the subdivision, as opposed to the people who are outside of it. And most subdivisions aren't that big.
For re-subdivision. Or it got it marked, I think it got marked off.
You can have it at a distance, and if there's nobody in that distance, then you word it so that it goes to the first abutting property,
Right.
something like that. 'Cause I think that's kind of.
Somewhat what I'm saying. I would say at least
If there's no one
three
within
of
that
them is-
200 or 500 feet, right, then at least it goes to, the minimum it goes to, or the worst case scenario, it goes to that first abutting property. I think that's what you.
Yeah,
Is that what you're saying?
yeah, and I wouldn't say, I mean, one guy, but I would say at least three.
You know,
You're just letting three people know in the area what's going on.
Abutting property plus 100 feet. That gets two.
There you go, I like that, yeah.
Abutting property owner plus 100 feet. That gets everyone around the radius plus the neighbor all
Yep.
around.
That would be perfect.
All right, so that's two.
Well, it hurt to let the people know.
Let me play devil's advocate.
Go for it.
So, a lot of properties in North Branford block the water company. So the water company would be the abutting property. And then if you have the 100 feet beyond that, now the abutting property could go from
Miles,
miles.
acres.
And then you gotta notify the person on the other side of that.
Well, then,
So,
There should be some-
making all things fair, let's say the guy to the south, you know, you got a boating property and a dwelling, okay, you can see, but the water company plus the guy, he might be out near the Durham line for all you know.
The budding property is the water company, and then you just go 100 feet beyond that, it's still the water company.
Just
I
like-
don't-
No.
I haven't,
Go for it.
I have talked to the water company recently about a project they want to do, and they're gonna need to notify people. And we determined that they needed to notify, 1,200 property owners to actually live up to the law. And they're like, 4 miles away, 5 miles away. So we just said 500 feet's fine of the activity. I mean, they could sue me.
right, what I was just saying though was, if you, let's make believe you selected 500 feet, but if there's nobody in that 500 feet range, then you go to the budding property. Not a budding property plus, but
Just,
500 feet, if there's nobody, if that's vacant 500 feet, then maybe you go to the abutting property. That's where I was thinking.
Well, a lot of
And
it
I
just,
know I'm not part of that, I just had it,
a lot of regulations just say the abutting property,
yeah,
period.
yeah.
yeah, I think that's good.
I mean, there's no statute, you can make it up.
Why wouldn't you go to the budding property and then the next guy? What would be the downfall in
well.
No, I like that idea. I think the abutting properties plus 100 feet.
And that's typically another,
that? Well, 100 feet, it's,
Right.
but it's 100 feet from that
From
end
that
of that
line.
guy's property.
Yeah.
And then another 100 feet.
Right.
You're gonna hit
Yeah.
another property
Yeah.
because that's your property line in, then it's gonna be another 100 feet.
Different town,
not-
Right.
doesn't matter, residents, different town, like your butters, East Haven or Guilford or Durham, or, does it matter?
Yeah.
You have to notify them,
Yeah.
okay, just wondering.
Should be notified.
Let's give that one some thought.
Yeah,
I thought that would be
A
an easy
butter's in
one.
100 feet and we'll think about it, come back.
yeah.
Got any
Well,
other
I
ideas?
want to make it easy for my staff.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. And applicants, yeah.
Yeah.
So the proposal is to all abutting, right now, abutting property owners plus 100 feet,
Yes.
okay? That's the proposal on the table. To be continued. Fair enough?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you, Dave, I'm sorry, the electronic message changeable copy signs I just saw, do we, is this a proposal that you're,
Yeah, I would add this into, whatever I said, 52 point,
yeah, 3.6?
yeah.
It's on the last page of that one.
In the sign code, I don't really have a problem with the sign code.
Okay. Sign code. as
The
far as-
sign regulations
Okay,
in general.
Okay.
Dave, is this how the electronic sign does now, every 7 seconds? Copy does not change more than once every 7 seconds, electronic message center does not exceed.
I don't know what their speed is.
Gotcha, okay. This is
I think
just a
their speed
suggestion.
is slower than that.
All right. With that being said, anything else, Dave? I think we did pretty good.
Yeah.
For the most part. We have anything for our next meeting, June 20th?
We have a subdivision on Parsonage Hill Road,
Okay.
10-lot subdivision. The extension, there's a subdivision up on the top there now.
Peachtree, is it called Peachtree?
Doesn't have a name, it's
Oh,
gonna be
okay.
Stefani Road or something. It's right at the top of the hill.
Yeah, okay, it was Peachtree.
There's,
It came to us once a long time ago. for
And there are
Peach.
4 lots, there are 4 houses up there already.
Yeah, yeah.
And they want to finish that off and do 6 more. And then they're gonna leave a big lot in the back for something.
This is the third go-around. Okay.
Third, second?
First time was Peachtree, I think it was 410, and I don't think they built them all, and then they came, I think it expired, and they came back. Almost what you're describing now, but that was a long time ago too. So this is.
So it's a nice site up there, it's
Yeah,
beautiful.
beautiful view, yeah.
yeah.
Mhm. It's near Ochinkowski. Yep.
Joe,
Joe
were you-
Ochinkowski, yeah. It's near his house, yeah.
is there open space associated with subdivision regulations, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
They have proposed subdivision down at the bottom of the hill, which is contiguous with property that we own,
Okay.
the town, not we, the town owns.
Okay.
And it's probably fairly good open space.
Okay, sounds good.
Anything else on the 20th?
But
Anything else?
that's all I have
That's
in
it.
the short term.
Any commission members have any issue for attendance for next meeting 2 weeks from today, the 20th?
No,
Something you're aware of? Okay.
that should be good.
So with that being said, we're ready for number 9, adjournment.
Yep.
Ron, would you like to take us out? It's your job.
Although I hate to do this, a motion we adjourn.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned,
Hey,
7:56.
you probably don't know,
Adjourn.
I wonder if I should keep this packet from this application, just in case.